Is that little voice inside your head starting to bother you? Hi, my name is Ruth and I'm a psychologist here at Curtin. Keep watching to explore what our inner critic is, its evolution, and what it does to our bodies so we can learn to appreciate it, live with it, learn from it, and grow. Having an inner critic is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be unsettling and exhausting dealing with a high level of self-criticism. Let's start by exploring why this is a really common human experience. If we go back to early humans, a part of the brain that is very old is the checker. It scans our environment, alerts us to danger, and motivates us to get to safety. Those with stronger checkers generally live longer because they were alerted to physical dangers. And since humans are social beings, we've adapted to rely on each other by being part of families or communities in order to survive. This checker also lets us know when there is a social threat like rejection or abandonment. It's pretty hard to ignore when our body and mind have gone into the stress response mode. It might look like a depressed mood, resignation, withdrawal, maybe overly admiring others, being passive, or reaching for an addiction. The tricky thing is your inner critic is likely to get pretty frustrated with these behaviours. It might turn up its volume and try to get you moving, and the cycle begins again. Most people have an idea of what their inner critic sounds like in their own mind. It might be your own voice or the voice of someone who's been critical of you in the past. We end up drawn into believing our inner critic and believing we have to do what it says to quieten it down. The inner critic can take over and create a state of chronic stress, keep us stuck in life, or make us a kind of a muffled version of who we really are. There are quite a few negative side effects for both our bodies and minds if a strong inner critic goes unchallenged over a long period of time. Our inner critic does its best to get us moving. It gets us out of the bed by saying, "Stop being lazy." It reminds us to take the moral high ground by saying, "People will think you're selfish if you take that last handout." But it's often not a kindly, nurturing voice that we hear. There are some aspects of the impact our inner critic has that we can control. We have the capacity for getting hooked into our thoughts, but we can also step back and disengage from thoughts. We can also deliberately generate thoughts and strengthen an alternative narrative. There are a lot of strategies that can support you in befriending your inner critic. Number one, get curious about what you are hearing. Ask yourself what your inner critic is trying to protect you from. What does it remind you of? When did it start? Whose voice is it? Getting curious about your inner critic can help you distance yourself from it. Number two, replace the word should with could. There are 8 billion people in the world and therefore 8 billion different ways to live life and view life. So we tend to create shortcuts to make this decision-making process less overwhelming. Shoulds take things too far though, and usually give us two choices, the thing that is right and the thing that you're doing in the moment. Try shifting a should to a could and see if you notice how many more options you have. Number three, label your thoughts. Labeling your thoughts as a memory, an assumption, or a judgment can help distance you from your inner critic. It can be like turning off your brain's alarm system and saying to the inner critic, "Yep, I hear you going off. I've done a perimeter check. All is well. I'm turning you off now." Number four, stay calm. When your inner critic is active and your stress response is triggered, your body automatically changes the way oxygen circulates around your system. And this is to do with activation of the sympathetic nervous system. The good news is that the relaxation response requires activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. It's like a switch where one can't be turned on while the other is engaged. If you're focusing on your breathing, your system gets a bit confused, knows that there can't both be a threat and enough oxygen in your system, so will stand down from its alert mode. When relaxation kicks in, your behaviour is more easily directed and you'll be able to get more distance from your thoughts. Number five, observe your own behaviour. When your inner critic is strong, you'll feel some strong motivation to fight, run away, or collapse to avoid further pressure. Your inner critic is trying to act in a way that it believes will keep you safe, but you have a choice to act on these urges or create some space by observing your mind. Here are some options you can consider. Are you feeling like you want to avoid the situation? Does avoiding the situation help it, delay it, or make it worse? Does your inner critic need you to hear what it's afraid of? And what do you need for yourself to persist in the situation? These strategies will hopefully help you relate to your inner critic in a different way. However, they don't get to the core issues that drive your inner critic. Our feelings influence how we think, how we behave, how our body is functioning, and sometimes these feelings get stuck. Often it's the ones we really don't want to feel and have learnt to suppress from early on in life. Our inner critic is often driven by these feelings and does its absolute best to continue suppressing these. This is much bigger stuff, but we can start to work on our approach to ourselves and our emotions by nurturing and strengthening our self-compassion. These core issues are difficult to work through by yourself, so we encourage you to come and chat to us at the counselling service. Thanks for watching.